Jonathan Kuminga burst onto the scene as the 7th pick of the 2021 NBA Draft. He was the Warriors' latest bet on raw athletic upside and two-way potential to pair with Stephen Curry. In just his rookie year, he collected a ring, becoming one of the youngest players ever to hoist the Larry O'Brien trophy. But the parade confetti quickly gave way to the harder part of NBA stardom, carving out a permanent trusted role in a veteran-heavy rotation. Let's go back to last season so that I can give you guys some background on what's recently been going right and wrong for Jonathan Kuminga. But before we dive any deeper, if you guys are enjoying the content, then be sure to like the video, subscribe, and turn on notifications as it helps the channel out a ton. Shortly after being benched for the final 18 minutes of a loss to the Denver Nuggets roughly a year and a half ago, a source close to Jonathan Kuminga told The Athletic that Kuminga had lost faith in coach Steve Kerr, believing that he could no longer reach his full potential under Kerr's guidance. According to these same sources, that moment would be the straw that broke the camel's back. Those sources sure sounded a lot like Kuminga talking through a bad fake mustache and a top hat, but regardless, maybe those sources had a point. In that particular game, Jonathan Kuminga didn't just show up, he delivered. He delivered 16 points on an efficient 5 of 7 shooting, grabbed 4 rebounds, dished out 4 assists, and casually posted a team-high +6 all within a tight 19-minute shift. He was a +6 in a game that they lost by 3 points. They might have lost 130 to 127, but it wasn't because of Jonathan Kuminga. But Kerr had an explanation, as he always does. Kerr said that Kuminga was playing great. His normal time to go back in would have been around the 5-6 minute mark of the fourth. Andrew was also playing great. We were rolling. We were up 18, 19, whatever it was, so we just stayed with him. Then at that later point, it didn't feel like the right thing to do. He had been sitting for a while, so I stayed with the group that was out there, and obviously, we couldn't close it out. To some people, an explanation like this sounds pretty rational. But to Kuminga, this sounded like more of the same nonsense that it kept him watching from the sidelines in the past. Even Steph Curry was like, my guy should have been on the floor. Kerr was not in his right mind. Curry actually did not say that, but he was confused by Kerr's decision. Earlier that same season, after being benched during the final 3 minutes of yet another loss to Denver, Kuminga expressed similar frustration, saying, sometimes I come out of the game not knowing what I did and that messes with my head. It's like, what do they want me to do? I can pass and I can do different stuff. To Kuminga, he wasn't asking for anything outrageous. When he's benched, he just wants clarity about why so he can address it. He simply wants what every young and perfect player craves, a chance to play and grow. I can empathize with Kuminga, not necessarily his NBA reality, but certainly with his feelings. Having personally experienced a coach who benched me for every minor mistake, often without explanation and at a much lower level, I know firsthand how difficult it can be when you feel like you're not getting a fair shake. But there Kuminga stood in the middle of 2 timelines and 2 realities. The Warriors were focused on perfection, but also needed growth. While Kuminga wanted to be a star but didn't want to do the small things required of him to stay on the floor and become a star, while constantly being taken off of the floor for every little thing. Mind you that around this time, the Warriors were also in talks for Pascal Siakam, talks that didn't reach fruition because the Warriors didn't want to trade Kuminga. The Warriors higher-ups have wanted to unlock Kuminga, meanwhile Kerr has been doing what he thinks works best for the team to win. The second half of that 23-24 season after the incident, it did seem like the Warriors were unlocking Kuminga. Kuminga started to ball. He averaged 18.7 points on 54.2% shooting from the field, knocked down 36.1% from deep, grabbed 5.4 rebounds, and handed out 2.8 assists per game, clearly showing signs of breaking out and building momentum to carry into next season, which was critical for the Warriors. All of a sudden, keeping Kuminga out of trade talks didn't seem so crazy. With Klay Thompson departing and their failure to land Lauri Markkanen and Paul George, The Warriors desperately needed another star or something alongside Steph Curry and Draymond Green. There was a brief thought and hope that maybe, just maybe, that emerging star for the season could be Jonathan Kuminga, a promising 21 to 22-year-old who, despite glaring flaws, was already putting up impressive numbers in an environment that didn't favor him. Kuminga would show out big in December, scoring 33 against the Rockets and then back-to-back 34 balls against the Clippers and Suns. But an ankle injury in the Warriors' second game of January would kill his momentum and force him out until March 13th. By that time, the Warriors had already traded for Kuminga's worst nightmare, Jimmy Butler. Jimmy's presence turned the Warriors into a winning machine, elevating their play to a near unstoppable level. However, his emergence in Golden State diminished Kuminga's role, making him appear increasingly expendable. His lingering ankle issues also didn't do him any favors. But Butler was doing all of the little things that Kuminga wasn't, including not looking off Steph Curry. Kuminga's tendency to do things like this en route to hunting his own shot was something that really ticked off the Warriors coaching staff. This report actually referenced the late season game against the Trailblazers where Kuminga finished with 10 points on 2 of 7 shooting. And I can confirm Kuminga was looking off players. The tape doesn't lie. Here he drives hard, Moody is open in the corner, but he rises for the contested mid-range. Here's another example. Curry sets the screen, and Kuminga uses the moment to initiate a post-isolation. However, his tunnel vision causes him to miss a slight defensive collapse. A minor shift by most standards, but an unacceptable amount of space to leave open when it's Steph Curry that we're talking about. If Steph gets the ball here, he is making that shot 100%. Kuminga finished off this season for the Warriors, being benched in the season finale, the play-in game, and 3 playoff games before the team had no choice but to use him against the vaunted Minnesota Timberwolves defense in the Western Conference semifinals after Steph Curry went down in Game 1 with a hamstring strain. Against this vaunted Timberwolves defense, Jonathan Kuminga did his best to challenge Butler for being the Warriors' best player for the series. In 5 games, Jonathan Kuminga averaged 27.4 minutes, 20.8 points, 3 rebounds, 1.2 assists, and 0.6 steals with a 63.5% true shooting percentage. Jimmy Butler averaged 38.9 minutes, 20.2 points, 7.4 rebounds, 5.6 assists, and 1.2 steals with only a 53.2% true shooting percentage. This series was a stark reminder of where Kuminga now stood with the franchise.
I think they lost Kuminga. I think Steve Kerr ruined that relationship with the DNPs. We've seen this happen time and time again when it comes to him and dealing with young talent. He just doesn't handle young talent well. He doesn't develop out of the years he's been there, we've seen one guy develop under Steve Kerr, and they ran him off as well, and that was Jordan Poole. So when it comes to young talent, I just don't think they handle it well. And I can see Kuminga being on the move.
Kerr says that he's been asked to win, but that the shape of the roster makes that tough to do so with Kuminga playing heavy minutes. I just feel like there's a really simple solution here that would make both sides happy. As he's saying this, Kuminga is swearing up and down that he never got the chance to prove himself with Golden State. Here's that quote. I feel like I'm at the point where that has to be my priority, to just be one of the guys that a team relies on. Aiming to be an all-star multiple times. Aiming to be great. Wherever I'm going to be at, it doesn't matter if it's the Warriors or if it's anywhere else. It's something that I want. I want to see what I could do. I know I got it. So I want to really see. I've never got that chance. To me, it sounds like his time in Golden State should be coming to an end, and I say should because often in toxic relationships where nobody is a beneficiary, both parties have a hard time separating from each other. But at least in this situation, it's clear what one side wants, and that's the chance to be one of the guys and a highlight tape machine. With the tools that the athletic 6'8" Kuminga possesses, he could have easily been a Mavericks Sean Marion or Nuggets Aaron Gordon kind of performer for the Warriors. But to do so, he would also have to have an Aaron Gordon kind of realization. Aaron Gordon spent years trying to be the guy in Orlando, but it wasn't until he got to Denver and embraced being the ultimate role player that he finally made his mark. He didn't need the spotlight, he just needed the right role. Kuminga had that same opportunity in Golden State. He could have grown into that bridge between eras while the vets faded out. But he's chasing stardom now, and honestly, if I was as gifted as him, perhaps I'd be the same way. But who knows, Kuminga's method could eventually succeed depending on the next situation that he lands in. That situation could eventually be Miami. The Heat could use a star potential two-way wing after missing the playoffs. And if the Warriors couldn't get you right and that Heat culture doesn't get you to lock in, then I don't know what to tell you. Brooklyn could be interesting for Kuminga also. The Nets are a team that have a ton of cap space and about as much unproven talent as anyone in the league. I could see the Nets eventually taking a small swing on Kuminga even if they don't want him. I could see the Nets acquiring him, building up his value, and then selling insanely high on him. This would sort of be an old OKC style of play. Sean Marks inherited a terrible situation when he arrived in Brooklyn and went for it with that KD, Harden, and Irving super team. But make no mistake about it, the man loves picks and would love to be a mini OKC. The Nets had 5 first-round picks in this year's draft. We'll talk about what Sean Marks and the Nets did with those picks later because they're getting a ton of hate. But at the end of the day, regardless of if those picks pan out or not, they still had 5. I don't care about anything else. That's impressive. It's going to be interesting to see how teams navigate this free agency period. Anyways, there's some more going on in the NBA right now that we have to be covering. So clicking one of the videos that's on the screen right now is a great way to support this channel. I'm GetLikeCoop, bringing you guys the scoop until our next upload.